Good evening, folks, and welcome to Heavy Metal Talk. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Urshan, and this video is in response to my buddy HellHound from the Horror&Metal channel. He kind of challenged me to do this, and that's to come up with the top 10 heavy metal guitarists of all time. This is going to be a lot of fun. We are going to have a few similar choices, of course, but I got a few different ones, so this is going to be interesting. So starting at number 10 is going to be Kirk Hammett from Metallica, a legendary heavy metal band, and probably the biggest heavy metal band of all time. Yeah, Kirk Hammett is a fantastic guitarist. He has amazing solos, and that's basically his role in Metallica, is the solos. You know, on all their albums he just kind of does the solos. Like he doesn't really do all the other stuff, but he's amazing at that. He's a phenomenal solo guitarist, so you gotta give him that credit. He's awesome. So in at number 9 is going to be Trey Azigzoth. I know I'm probably butchering that last name, it's hard to pronounce. But he's from Morbid Angel, one of my favorite death metal bands. And if you don't believe me, listen to the opening riff of Rapture, my favorite Morbid Angel song. When I first heard that song, I was like, wow, this is a whole new level of evil sounding guitar, you know, that like unbelievable stuff. And he's the one constant in Morbid Angel. He's the only member that's been on every single Morbid Angel album. Yeah, amazing band, amazing guitarist. In at number 8 is going to be a guy you probably wouldn't expect to see on this list because he doesn't get enough credit, and that is Dino Kazarus from Fear Factory, one of my absolute favorite heavy metal bands of all time. A band that doesn't get enough credit as well, Fear Factory. Just amazing technical precision metal, you know. And that's his style of guitar playing too. It's just like a jackhammer, like a machine, and I love that. That's one of my favorite things about heavy metal, is that kind of intense technicality and intensity, you know. And Dino Kazarus brings that very much so. Excellent guitarist and one of the most underrated of all time. In at number 7 is going to be, yes, of course, I have to represent Iron Maiden, one of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time. And I'm going to give credit to all 3 guitarists in Iron Maiden. That's Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, and Yannick Gers, yes. Yannick Gers joined them for the No Prayer for the Dying album. That's after Adrian Smith left. And I feel like he really stepped up to the plate and cemented his role in Iron Maiden. I think he's an excellent guitarist, and I've seen him live up close and personal, you know, and he is an amazing guitarist. So, as is, of course, Dave Murray and Adrian Smith. That goes without saying. They're absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, so Iron Maiden is an incredible band, amazing guitarists, and you got to give credit to all 3 of them. In at number 6 is going to be Bill Stear from Carcass. Yes, absolutely love Carcass, phenomenal band, and Bill Stear is an amazing guitarist. Not to mention his awesome background vocals, of course, too. Carcass is an incredible band, one of my favorite metal bands, period. Not just death metal, one of my favorite metal bands of all time. And the reason he's on this list is because his riffs are some of the most gargantuan, enormous sounding heavy metal riffs I've ever heard in my life. You know, it's just like earth-shattering when you hear it, like ta-ta-ta-ta, you know, like, it's so loud and in your face and aggressive and heavy. Amazing guitarist. Bill Stear is phenomenal. In at number 5 is going to be the twin guitar attack of Jeff Hanneman and Carrie King from Stear. Yes. My favorite metal band of all time, and what a phenomenal team of Carrie King and Jeff Hanneman. Just amazing, you know, the blazing solos back and forth, incredibly evil sounding. Great stuff. I can't pick one over the other, so I have to pick both because they're equally awesome. Carrie King and the late, great Jeff Hanneman, who I think Jeff Hanneman is the better songwriter of the two. But I'd say when it comes to guitar playing, they're equally awesome. So in at number 4 is going to be Randy Rhoads from the Ozzy Osbourne band, yes. And you know how amazing Randy Rhoads is because I'm basing that off of only 2 albums that he did with Ozzy Osbourne. Based on those 2 albums alone, he's all the way up at number 4. That's how great Randy Rhoads was. He was a phenomenal guitarist. Amazing, blazing solos. I've never seen solos like him, you know. He's just an amazing guitarist. Mind-blowing stuff. Just imagine if he hadn't died in that plane crash, what we would have gotten after that, you know. He would have been at number 1, I'm sure. And in at number 3 is going to be the twin guitar attack of Dave Mustaine and Marty Friedman from Megadeth. Yes. Dave Mustaine is another guy that I feel like doesn't get enough credit as a guitarist. He is an amazing guitarist. And so is Marty Friedman. I think Marty Friedman was the best second guitarist in Megadeth. Technically, he was the lead, I guess, you know. But yeah, Marty Friedman, amazing virtuoso guitarist. His solos are just incredible. Case in point, my favorite heavy metal song of all time, Hangar 18. At the end, when they do the dueling guitar solos, that just blows my mind. It gets me so hyped. Yeah, and that's because 2 phenomenal guitarists trading solos, you know, it just doesn't get any better than that. And in that number 2 is going to be the godfather of heavy metal, Tony Iomi. Yes, you absolutely have to give credit to Tony Iomi. He created metal with his thunderous, gargantuan riffs, you know. Amazing stuff. Yeah, such a creative guy. Yeah, there wouldn't be heavy metal if it wasn't for Tony Iomi and Black Sabbath, of course. Cannot say enough about him. Phenomenal guitarist, and the fact that he lost his fingertips in an accident and he's still able to play that way is just amazing to me, you know. Cannot get enough of Tony Iomi. He's an absolute legend, an icon, a god of heavy metal, if you will. And that leaves us at number 1. Dimebag Darrell Abbott from Pantera. Yes. Absolutely phenomenal. He's just a beast. He's just a monster, and you know it. Dimebag Darrell Abbott from Pantera. And yes, I was able to see Pantera a few times live in concert, as well as Damageplan, his band after Pantera. And there's just nobody better. There's just not a more powerful guitar player than Dimebag Darrell Abbott. It's just effortless the way he plays, you know. It seems like he could probably do it in his sleep. That's how great he is, you know. So powerful, and he had a great stage presence as well, just jumping around stage, and he never misses a note, you know. I'd say his best work is Cowboys from Hell. Some of the riffs that he came up with on the album are absolutely unbelievable, like A Message in Blood, the opening to A Message in Blood, or The Art of Shredding, the title track, of course, Cowboys from Hell. Amazing, amazing stuff. You could also do some great mellow stuff, like the Planet Caravan, the Black Sabbath cover there, Tens, Floods, stuff like that. Very melodic. He could do it all. He was just a heavy metal monster. So yeah, gonna give a couple honorable mentions as well, and here's a couple people that are kind of on the edge, on the borderline of metal. But their contributions and their influence on the heavy metal genre cannot be denied, and that is, of course, Eddie Van Halen, the most influential guitarist on heavy metal, even though Van Halen I would not consider to be metal per se. But yeah, I think every heavy metal guitarist aspires to be like Eddie Van Halen, And the next honorable mention would be Alex Lifeson from Rush, the most underrated guitarist of all time, in my opinion. But yeah, some people might consider early Rush to be like heavy metal, but yeah, highly influential guitarist, but not quite metal. So yeah, that's my top 10 heavy metal guitarists in response to HellHound from the Horror and Metal channel. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Urshan, in Heavy Metal Talk. Tune in and rock on.